Here we go. Back to where I belong, League of Legends. And we're continuing with my favorite storyline, Azir. Let's go.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Lore of League of
My
Legends.
ears.
We're going to be going back to a champion that was released not so long ago, about a year or so now. But with the upcoming release of Talia, Riot has created a new story arc within Runeterra focusing on Shurima. So, without further ado, I present to you the updated lore of Azir, the Emperor of the Sands.
Oh, so it is
Enjoy.
updated. It's not revamped, it's updated. Okay.
Thousands of years ago, the Shuriman Empire was a sprawling realm of vassal states conquered by powerful armies led by all but invincible warriors known as the Ascended. Ruled by an ambitious and power-hungry emperor, Shurima was the greatest realm of its day, a fertile land blessed by the power of the sun that shone from a great golden disc floating atop the temple at the heart of its capital. The youngest and
I
least
think they'd have a good relationship with Solari, right?
favoured son of the emperor, Azir, was never destined for greatness. With so many siblings ahead of him, he would never be emperor. Most likely he would take up a position in the priesthood or as governor of some backwater province. He was a slender, studious boy who spent more time perusing the texts collected in the great library of Nasus than training to fight under the stern tutelage of the ascended hero, Renekton. Amid the twisting shelves of scrolls, books and tablets, Azir met a young slave boy who visited the library almost every day in search of texts.
So he wasn't dumb, he was smart. His only mistake was trusting Xerath. But like, I thought he was just like dumb, snobby little brat.
By his master. Slaves in Shurima were forbidden
youngest.
to take names, but as the two boys became friends, Azir broke that law and called his new friend Xerath, which means one who shares. He appointed Xerath, though he was careful never to endanger him by naming him publicly, as his personal slave, and the two boys shared their love of history by learning all they could of Shurima's past and its long legacy of ascended heroes. While travelling with his father, brothers and Renekton on the yearly tour of the Empire, the royal caravan stopped at a well-known oasis for the night. Azir and Xerath stole away in the middle of the night to draw the stars and add their own celestial maps to those they had studied in the Great Library. While they drew the patterns of constellations, the royal caravan was attacked by a cabal of assassins sent by the Emperor's enemies. One of the assassins found the two boys out in the desert and was poised to cut Azir's throat when Xerath intervened, throwing himself upon the assassin's back. In the ensuing melee, Azir freed his dagger and plunged it into his attacker's throat. Azir took up the dead man's sword and rushed back to the oasis, but by the time he returned, the assassins were already defeated. Renekton had protected the Emperor and slain the attackers, but Azir's brothers were all dead. Azir told his father of Xerath's courage and asked him to reward the slave boy, but his
Was this orchestrated by Xerath to kill his brothers?
His words fell on deaf ears. In the Emperor's eyes, the boy was a slave and beneath his notice, but Azir swore that one day he and Xerath would be brothers. The Emperor returned to his capital, with a 15-year-old Azir now his heir, and unleashed a merciless campaign of bloodshed against those he believed had sent the assassins. Shurima descended into years of paranoia and murder as the Emperor took revenge on any he suspected of treason. Though he was now heir to the throne, Azir's life yet hung by a thread. His father hated him, wishing he had died instead of his brothers, and the Queen was still young enough to bear sons.
Ooh.
Azir trained in combat, for the attack at the oasis had revealed how little he knew of the deadly arts.
It doesn't say why he didn't like Azir though, right? Because from what I understand, Azir spent time in the library studying, like... It doesn't sound like a bad son. Sounds like he wants to be very educated. Like, why does the Emperor hate Azir so much?
Took up the task of teaching the growing prince, and under his aegis, Azir learned to wield sword and spear, to command warriors, and to read the ebb and flow of battle. The young heir elevated Xerath, his only trusted confidant, and made him his right-hand man. To better counsel him, Azir tasked Xerath with seeking out knowledge wherever he could find it. Years passed, but the queen was never able to carry a child to term, every conceived infant perishing before it could be born. So long as the queen remained barren, Azir's life was relatively safe. Some around the court believed a curse was at work, and a few even whispered the young heir's name in connection with this, though Azir claimed innocence and even executed someone who dared voice such accusations openly. Eventually, the queen bore a healthy son, but on the night of his birth a terrible storm engulfed Shurima. The queen's chambers were struck again and again by powerful bolts of lightning, and in the subsequent blaze, both the queen and her newborn son were killed. It was said the emperor went mad with grief and took his own life upon hearing the news, but tales soon spread of how he and his guards had been found lying in pieces on the palace floor, their bodies little more than charred skeletons. Azir was shocked by their deaths, but the empire needed a leader, and with Zereth at his side he took control of Shurima as its emperor. Over the next decade he expanded Shurima's borders and ruled with a harsh but just hand. He instituted reforms to better the lives of slaves and privately developed a plan to overturn millennia of tradition and eventually free them all. He kept his plans secret even from Zereth, and the issue of slavery would prove to be a continual bone of contention between them. The empire had been built on the back of slavery, and many of the great noble houses depended on enforced labor for their vast wealth and power.
Like, you can't just go out and abolish slavery. It's going to be a bunch of problems. So you have to get the nobles to agree. Like, you have to convince them. Like, it's a fucking procedure, obviously. I know why Zereth was so impatient, but yeah.
Such monolithic institutions could not be overturned overnight.
Yeah,
and Azir's plans would be undone were they to become common
I don't know
knowledge.
why he didn't. This is
Despite
the dumb thing. Like, why would he not tell Zereth of his plans? Like, listen, like, yeah, I want to free the slaves, but like, it's gonna take time. Like, consult with him about how to go about it. Maybe there's a better, faster way that he can think of. Whatever. Like, I don't know why he wouldn't tell Zereth. I mean, I get why, like, he wants to keep it a surprise. Like, hey, we're freeing the slaves, just what we planned. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, this guy's been working with you since you were like a kid to just get this done. So like, I don't see why you would keep this a secret from him.
Desire to name Zereth his brother.
Like, it's the worst kept secret. It's like, yeah, but like, you said when you become emperor you'll abolish slavery. It's like, yeah, I lied, but actually, like, he doesn't know. But like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But it's like, yeah, Zereth, yeah, we're passing the cleansing, but yeah, we're not against. I'm just gonna surprise the fuck out of him. I can't wait to capture his reaction on Instagram.
He could not do so until all of Shurima's slaves were free. Through these years, Zereth protected Azir from his political rivals and guided the expansion of the empire. Azir married and fathered numerous children, some by wedlock, others by ill-advised liaisons with slaves and harem girls. Zereth stoked the emperor's grand vision of an empire greater than any the world had ever known, but to stand as ruler over the entire world, Zereth convinced Azir that he would need to be all but invincible, a god amongst men, an ascended being.
Yeah.
As the kingdom reached the zenith of its power, Azir announced he would undertake the Ascension ritual, that the time was right for him to take his place alongside Nasus and Renekton and their glorious forebears. Many questioned this decision. The Ascension ritual was highly dangerous and intended only for those near the end of their lives, those who had devoted their lives to Shurima and whose service was to be honoured with Ascension. It was for the Sun Priest to decree who would be blessed with Ascension, not the hubris of an emperor to bestow it upon himself. Azir would not be dissuaded from his rash course of action, for his arrogance had grown along with his empire, and he ordered them to comply on pain of death. The day of the ritual finally came, and Azir marched toward the dais of Ascension, flanked by thousands of his warriors and tens of thousands of his subjects. The brothers Renekton and Nasus were absent, having been dispatched by Zereth to deal with an emergent threat, but still Azir would not turn from what he saw as his great destiny. He climbed to the great golden disc atop the temple at the heart of the city, and in the moments before the Sun Priest began the ritual, he turned to Zereth and finally freed him. And not just him, but all slaves.
Yeah.
Zereth was stunned into speechlessness, but Azir was not yet done. He embraced Zereth and named him his eternal brother, as he had promised he would all those years ago. Azir turned as the priest began the ritual to bring down the awesome power of the sun.
It's too late.
Azir was unaware that Zereth had studied more than just history and philosophy in his quest for knowledge. He had learned the dark arts of sorcery, all the while nursing a desire for freedom that had grown like a cancer into a burning hatred. At the height of the ritual, the former slave unleashed his powers and Azir was blasted from his place on the dais. Without the protection of the runic circle, Azir was consumed by the sun's fire as Zereth took his place. The light filled Zereth with power, and he roared as his mortal body began to transform. But the magic of the ritual was not intended for Zereth, and such awesomely powerful celestial energies could not be diverted without dire consequence. The power of the Ascension ritual exploded outward, devastating Shurima and laying waste to the city. Its people burned to ash, and its towering palaces fell to ruin as the desert sands rose up to swallow the city. The sun disk sank from the sky, and what had taken centuries to build was brought to ruin in an instant by one man's ambition and another's misplaced hate. All that remained of Azir's city was sunken ruins and echoes of its people's screams on the night wind. Azir saw none of this. For him, all was nothingness. His last memories were of pain and fire. He knew nothing of what befell him atop the temple, nor what became of his empire. He remained lost in timeless oblivion until, thousands of years after Shurima's doom, the blood of his last descendant spilled onto the temple ruins and resurrected him. Azir was reborn, but was yet incomplete. His body little more than animate dust given form, held together by the last vestiges of his indomitable will. Gradually resuming his corporeal form, Azir stumbled through the ruins and came across the
imagine your willpower, and it's actually a thing, kinda, where it's like people often die after like a massive holiday or after like a loved one's birthday or something like that, like of old age, I mean, right? It's like their willpower to live, to see this last Christmas, this last birthday, is that like, it's actually a thing, and then it's like once they see through it, they're like, okay, now I can rest, and it's like they die right after. Not like a few days after, like, but like shortly after, right? Not like, okay, we partied, I'm dead, right? It's like not like that. But it is interesting that it's like, can you have such a strong willpower to live that you just like refuse to die of old age? It's like, imagine.
Corpse of a woman with a treacherous knife wound in her back. He did not know her, but saw in her features the distant echo of his bloodline. All thoughts of empires and powers were forgotten as he lifted his daughter of Shurima and bore her to what had once been the Oasis of the Dawn. The oasis was empty and dry, but with every step Azir took, clear water began filling the rocky basin.
Oh shit.
Azir immersed the woman's body in restorative waters of the oasis, and as the blood washed away, only a faint scar remained where the blade had pierced her. And with that act of selflessness, Azir was lifted up in a column of fire as the magic of Shurima renewed him, remaking him as the ascended being he was meant to become.
Oh shit.
The sun's immortal radiance poured into him, crafting his magnificent hawk-armoured form and granting him the power to command the very sand itself. Azir lifted his arms, and his ruined city shrugged off the dust of centuries spent beneath the desert to rise anew.
I mean, technically he is Ra, right? Ra, god of sun. Yeah, he is technically Ra. Like, that's what he's supposed to be. Yeah. What is the... Nasus is god of death, right? Yeah, Anubis, Nasus, yeah. What's the crocodile then? I don't remember a crocodile. Oh well.
The sun disk lifted into the sky once more, and healing waters flowed between temples, heaving themselves back into the light at the Emperor's command. Azir climbed the steps of the newly risen Sun Temple, weaving the desert winds to recreate the city's last moments. Ghosts formed of sand relived his city's last moments from long ago, and Azir watched in horror as Zereth's treachery unfolded. He wept as he saw his family murdered, his empire fall, and his power stolen. Only now, millennia too late, did he finally understand the depths of hatred harboured by his former friend and ally.
Yeah.
With the power and precision of an ascended being, Azir sensed Zereth somewhere abroad in the world and summoned an army of sand warriors to march alongside their reborn emperor. As the sun blazed from the golden disk above him, Azir swore a mighty oath that he would reclaim his lands and take back what was his.
Well, what was his is gone. Like, what is he gonna reclaim? I don't know. Well, I mean, there are still Shurimans out there. But, like, so why does Talia think that Azir is gonna enslave her people, then? Right. Well, again, I don't know Azir's motives right now aside from revenge, but it's like maybe he's gonna re-enslave them because his slave friend betrayed him. I don't know. Well, we'll find out later, but let's see what lore guy over here, Targran, like the video of course, has to say about Xerath. Let's go.